If you use alcohol to fall asleep or drink alcohol close to bedtime, then you might be interested to know how drastically alcohol changes your sleep architecture. Hey there, Jessica here. I'm a therapist in Austin who specializes in sleep, chronic pain, OCD, PTSD, and maladaptive overcontrol. Be sure to stick around for the whole video to learn about how alcohol affects not just your sleep architecture, but also your melatonin production as well as your REM sleep. So I want to start out by talking about what normal or typical sleep architecture looks like. And sleep architecture is just a fancy term for what your sleep looks like over the course of the night. So there are 4 stages of sleep that we cycle through several times throughout the night. And they're divided first into REM and not REM. So N means not REM. And so N1, N2, N3 is not REM 1, not REM 2, and not REM 3. So REM is just one stage, and then not REM is divided into 3 stages. N1, this is your lightest stage of sleep. You are very easy to wake up when you're in N1. It's only 2 to 5% of your total night. And this is just that first stage where you're kind of transitioning between being awake and being asleep. That's N1. N2 is the next deepest stage of sleep. It's not the deepest stage of sleep. It's not the lightest stage of sleep. It's somewhere in the middle. This is where you spend most of your night. This is typically 45 to 55% of your night is spent in N2. And N2 is just this further slowing of everything. You're a little bit harder to wake up. It's a little bit deeper sleep. That's N2. N3, this is deep sleep. So when people talk about deep sleep, they're talking about N3. This is dead to the world. Very hard to wake up. So kids who sleepwalk, this is happening in N3. Kids and people who, I say kids because it's mostly kids, but some adults can get this, who have sleep terrors, like who will be like screaming in the middle of the night. That is happening in N3. So the person who is going through it, they have no memory of it. They have no idea what's going on. They are dead to the world of sleep, and they are not going to remember it the next day. That's N3. N3 is only 10 to 20% of your total night, typically. And then we have REM sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement. It's where most of your dreaming happens. We do dream in all stages of sleep, but the dreams we have in REM tend to be more vivid. They tend to be more of a story or a narrative. We tend to remember them much more readily. So REM is 20 to 25% of your night. REM is actually a very light stage of sleep. You're very easy to wake up when you're in REM. So REM sleep and deep sleep are not the same stage of sleep. REM is also called paradoxical sleep because your body is paralyzed, but your brain is very active. Your eyes move very rapidly back and forth, but your body is paralyzed, which is meant to keep you from acting out your dreams, like punching and kicking, stuff like that. So you cycle through these several times throughout the night. The first cycle of the night tends to be N1, and then into N2, then into N3 for a while, then back to N2, then into your first REM cycle. Then you go back to N2, back to N3, back around to REM. Typically, people are going to have most of their deep sleep in the first half of the night and most of their REM sleep in the second half of the night. So the last, hour and a half or so of your sleep, you're pretty much all getting REM sleep. You're not getting hardly any deep sleep. So nightmares, those are happening in REM. And people tend to remember their nightmares. Night terrors, people don't remember them. But nightmares, people remember them. And people tend to wake up from a nightmare because REM is a very light stage of sleep. So now I want to move on to looking at what sleep architecture looks like with alcohol on board. So you may notice that you fall asleep very quickly if you drink. So alcohol, like maybe 5 minutes or less, you tend to slam right down into N3 when you drink alcohol. And you might think that's a good thing. A lot of people with insomnia will use alcohol to help them fall asleep, and it will help you fall asleep. But what happens is you slam into deep sleep and then you come out of it. And then the rest of the sleep you get that night is pretty crappy and it's in and out. And it looks completely different. It's like you go into N3 and then back to N1, then back to N3, then you're awake, and then you drop off a little bit, maybe fall asleep to go into N2, then you're awake. Da, da, da. So humans are not supposed to slam into sleep that quickly. Falling asleep really should be a slow, gentle, gradual process. It should take anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. People who fall asleep in like 5 minutes or less, that's not always a good thing. A lot of the people who fall asleep that quickly are people with sleep apnea, people with narcolepsy or idiopathic hypersomnia, people who were drunk. A lot of the time, if someone's falling asleep that quickly, it actually can mean something's wrong. It's supposed to be a slow, gentle, gradual process. Humans are not supposed to slam into sleep. And we're definitely not supposed to slam right into N3. And then you kind of have this rebound, and the quality of sleep you're getting on alcohol is not good. Also, as you may have noticed with that image on the screen, it changes your sleep architecture the whole night. So the whole night looks completely different. You slam right into N3, bypassing N1 and N2. Also, this is going to throw off your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm, I did a whole video about the circadian rhythm. I'll link a card. I still haven't figured out if it's this direction or this direction, but it'll be linked above. All about the circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm determines the timing of when you're asleep and when you're awake. And so if that gets disrupted, then you find yourself being tired at weird times, being awake at weird times. There's kind of less predictability in what your sleep looks like. We want that to be regulated. And with alcohol changing the sleep architecture, that is going to disrupt your circadian rhythm. So you slam right into N3, then you rebound. It's like it goes down, so it has to come back up. And you have fragmented sleep the rest of the night. So you end up getting way too much N3 and not enough REM. So I'll just pop in real quick to say, if you are enjoying this so far, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do a lot of sleep-related content as well as content related to my other specialties that I listed above. Okay, next thing I want to talk about, another thing that happens with alcohol and sleep is that less melatonin gets produced. So melatonin, I talk about melatonin in my circadian rhythm video. It's a hormone. It's produced by the pineal gland in your brain. We all have melatonin. We all have naturally occurring melatonin. The purpose of melatonin is to serve as a darkness cue to signal to your body that bedtime is approaching. And so there's a particular time in the evening, it's called your dim light melatonin onset, where your brain starts to produce more melatonin. You will fall asleep 1 to 2 hours after that. So alcohol has an adverse effect on the production of melatonin, and melatonin is one of the big cues, one of the ways that your circadian rhythm knows what time it is, and thus if you should be awake or be asleep is what's going on with the melatonin production. Alcohol is going to disrupt that as well. Another thing that happens is you end up spending a lot less time in REM sleep. So we're still trying to discern what the purpose of all the different stages of sleep are. But we figure REM has to be really important because if you suppress it, it comes roaring back. So like, for example, cannabis also will, for some people, it will suppress REM. For other people, it makes their dreams super vivid. But for a lot of people, it suppresses REM. And so a lot of people who have PTSD and get nightmares, they will use cannabis at night because it suppresses the REM. And hey, if you don't have REM, you can't really have nightmares. So they will use that. But if they stop using the cannabis, what will happen is that REM will come back with a vengeance. And so they'll go into REM really soon and go into more REM. And it does not like being suppressed. So we still don't know the full kind of purpose of it, but we do think that REM is where short-term memory becomes long-term memory. Alcohol will increase what's called your REM latency, which is just another way of saying the amount of time that passes before you go into your first REM cycle. So longer REM latency, fewer stages of REM overall over the course of the night. I also send out a monthly newsletter if you're liking this so far or finding this interesting, similar content to what I cover in my videos, but I'll have a link down in the description if you're interested in that. And then the last point that I want to make is that alcohol and sleep meds will amplify one another. So both alcohol and many of the medications that are prescribed for sleep depress your central nervous system. Your central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. And when we say that a medication or a substance depresses your central nervous system, we mean to say, among other things, it slows down your breathing and it slows down your heart rate. So yeah, a lot of people use alcohol for anxiety or to fall asleep. Obviously, sleep aids. Yes, to some degree, we want the heart rate to slow down and the breathing to slow down, but you can imagine we don't want that. That can only go too far. So that's another really important thing to keep in mind is that if you're taking any kind of a sedative or sleeping medication and you're also putting alcohol on top of it, we're really slowing down the breathing. We're really slowing down the heart rate. You only want to do that so much. So I'll finish out by saying this content is for educational purposes only. It's not a substitute for professional mental health treatment. Please talk to your doctor before you make any changes in medication or alcohol use. I'll also link a blog post below where I wrote about melatonin, kind of what it is, what it's for, what it's not for. Like, for example, it's not really that useful for insomnia, but it does have some purpose in the sleep world. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope it helps you kind of make an informed decision about what to do as far as alcohol in your sleep. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of the day. Bye.